All right, guys, welcome back to another Unlocked interview episode. I'm here with Jeff Heuerman, good friend of mine, graduate of SPFL. Super stoked to be talking.
Graduate. I like that. I
Yeah,
like that.
man, you are a graduate
Yeah.
of SPFL. You're part of the community now. Super stoked to be here with you, brother, and talking to you about the experience and reliving some of that magic that we had going through that program together. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, dude. Reliving the magic. It was magic.
Yeah, man. Well, I hope we can talk about that a little bit today. And like we start with all these interview episodes just to get us comfortable and get us flowing, like it's always cool to get context of who someone is, right? Like there's so many different makes and models of folks that go through this. It's not made for any one specific person. Everyone finds tremendous value from this thing. So for you to tell the audience like who you are, who is Jeff Heuerman and what brought you to this work?
Yeah. Jeff Heuerman, washed up athlete, dad of one, husband, and graduate, so yeah, anyways, it's kind of weird. Like you and I, our conversation going to be shared publicly, right? Because, most all of our conversations we've had have been, we get deep,
Yeah, man, we get deep real fast.
but they stay between us, so it's, it's cool seeing, kind of the other side of this and different dynamic and, kind of maybe being able to share some of, some of the things that we wrap our heads around and, come up with some other people. So,
yeah, man. So let's talk a little bit about what brought you into the work. Cause I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are curious about with strategic planning for life. This process, we called it, which really resonated with you when we were going through it, like personal operating system, right? We talked a lot about like the downloads and like the way in which we make decisions and stuff like that. So to hear like what brought you to this, I think it's going to be a big unlock for folks too. Just getting some empathy around like those steps into this personal development work that you journeyed on. Like what brought you to SPFL and Allen Key?
just being in a kind of big transitional period of life, retiring from the NFL, coming back to Columbus, starting a new job, resigning from that job and having a baby boy and kind of in a big transitional period of life. And it was awesome. It was super organic how you and I kind of hit it off there at Fox and the Snow.
Yeah.
And so I think what you guys offer and kind of how you take people through the program and the kind of the thought processes that you open people up to is really important and in those transitional times of life, because you take a wrong turn or you go down the wrong path and you're not kind of putting it into your operating system and knowing that everything's clicking on all cylinders, you can get a little strayed, you get a little lost in some big transitional periods of life. And so I think it was the perfect timing of when we got connected, and it was awesome. I think having the time to be able to do it and really dive into it, that's one of the things that we talked about is you go into this thing and give it the 50%, it's okay, whatever. Honestly, you could go online and Google search some some motivational quotes and stuff about life, and get the 50% out of it. But it's really it's the interactions with you guys, and kind of taking it serious. There's times that you literally had to cut me off. There was one time I think Krista had to get up and leave Cohatch. After 4 hours, she's like, "Look, I got a family, I got kids."
Yeah.
So I think really taking it serious and diving into it, and giving it the the time and energy that it deserves. That's kind of where you get the maximum benefits of it.
That's
and I was
cool.
so fortunate that I was able to do that.
Yeah, man. I love that reflection too. And one of the things that I want to ask, because I think it's important to talk about, because it's like I told you before we started recording, this process and like you said, there's many things out there. Strategic planning for life happens to be one of them that we feel has some really cool impacts in people's lives, to give them clarity and vision and stuff like that for these points of transition or just in general. But are the reservations? We're not selling t-shirts. Like I said, it's not a pick a thing off a shelf and go. It's not a how-to guide that you just take down and you go. You've got to participate with this product, this experience that you're getting yourself into. So because it's not something that's boxed up and easy to understand, like, I'm sure there were reservations, right? And everybody's got reservations coming to this. I remember you had reservations coming in. Do you remember what some of those were? And do you remember like how you felt prior to jumping in? What was that feeling prior to coming into the work and some of your reservations about getting started?
Yeah, I mean, if especially where I come from when it comes to kind of opening up and sharing some of those deeper emotions and things that I was so good at shoving down there, as we know. It was I was a little hesitant, just because it's kind of a step I had never taken before, and all the years of playing sports and the ups and downs, and there were a lot of downs, playing sports and injuries and things like that, and just kind of just never went down the path of kind of opening up and talking and kind of getting into those deeper emotions, understanding yourself, why you're thinking the way you're thinking, and not being afraid to kind of think and you know what I'm saying, let some of those emotions be what they are, and learn from them and grow from them, because I think for me, and maybe not everybody is this way, but it was easy for me to shove them down, and so not all, I don't think everybody's like that. Some people, it's not as easy for them to, shove those things down there and just keep, kind of trucking on. But, for me, it was, and I think you're only kind of doing yourself a disservice, by doing that. And I was, just fortunate to, kind of go through, what I went through with you guys. And I said it all the time, the brain wiring that happens is great. When you start to really kind of let emotions, that necessarily aren't always positive, let them be there, and kind of understand why you're feeling that way. And, and then learning from them, and, kind of just going about the process of, like, there we go. our pinkies.
Our pinkies that are
pretty weird.
For those on audio, Jeff and I both have like mangled, broken pinkies from sports and things like that. So no, I love that. I love that reflection, man. And thank you for sharing that with me. And I want to say that again, because I do think it's a powerful thing for anybody to hear, specifically men. I mean, obviously, like, men and women, there's genders things out there, but I think men are really unraveling from that idea of that compartmentalization, right? Like, for us to like kind of be tough and take it in and just put it down to the side and not talk about it or feel it and express those things outside of ourselves, right? I mean, I think that's a learned skill rather than a thing that we just have. Especially with the conditioning that has come over, generations and from society, culture, parents, school, et cetera. So I think it's
just the generation, I kind of grew up in, and you did too. We've had conversations about it. Is, it's, if you're having a bad day or something, you went and got an extra workout in, or you went and, ran the stadium, stairs, and then next thing you know, when you got done, you're feeling a little bit better about it. And that was kind of how you went about it.
Right.
I still remember in high school, going through some of those, down moments in high school and things like that, going and getting those extra workouts in, what I'm saying? And just kind of, and I'm not saying that, that there's not a place for that, obviously, because, we both enjoy working out, and the endorphins we get from working out is something that, we really have to have. But just learning, that's not the only way to do it. And, bringing in, kind of that self-awareness of, what you're feeling, why you're feeling, and kind of, like I said, learning, growing from, those emotions, versus just going and, bench pressing or, whatever.
I think that's such an interesting point too. And I think this is a really good parlay into maybe some of those like big tangible outcomes that you felt from the experience. Right. And so for those who are listening and maybe have not, tuned into Alan Key and the work that we're doing, that Jeff and I are both talking about, we have a lifestyle design framework. It's a lifestyle operating system. Currently it's a 9-week program that you go through, and you can go through, as Jeff did, in a one-on-one way. That's very intensive when we go very deep and personal around your lifestyle. And it starts with awareness of yourself, deep self-awareness, radical self-inquiry and introspection, to then jump from that inner world to the outer world of going into application and integration into that knowing on the outside. So Jeff went through that program, super grateful he did, but I'm interested to hear too, as you begin to talk about some of those things that you realized, like, what were some of those big tangible outcomes for you, brother? When you think about like reflecting back on that journey, what has still stuck with you today, or what did you feel almost immediately as you went through and then have graduated from that course?
Like I said, I mean, just burying the emotions was something that just was, second nature to me. And now it's, just, we talk about the, kind of taking a step back and seeing it, and why is it there, and letting it be there, right?
Yeah.
Versus just kind of getting rid of it. And that's one of the things that I still, take with me today, is just, it even gets kind of crazy when you're talking about visualizing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking about visualizing an emotion and taking a step back from it. And, if you would have told me, honestly, if you would have told me that, we started in January, like, if you would have told me that 6 months ago, I'd have been like, yeah, sweet, dude, but kind of really, going through that and understanding and learning how to do that is huge for me. I mean, I do it on a daily basis. Like, I mean, we were getting smoothies the other day, and I'm sitting in the car, and our 2-year-old is not happy at all. It's 11:45, his nap's at noon, and he's in the car seat. He's like, "Get me out of here!" Sitting there, of course, the smoothie place is taking an hour to get
Right.
2
Always
smoothies
happens.
for Hannah and I, and she comes out and she has the complete wrong smoothie that I ordered, and I'm like, what, what are we doing? And that was just one of the more recent moments, but I, just immediately took a step back, didn't react like that, and just kind of sat there and just kind of, observed, and I'm frustrated, blah, 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 things like that. And being vocal to her, rather than trying to cram it down there and act like I'm not mad. She's going to know I'm mad in probably 5 minutes, because I'm going to go off at something else.
Yeah.
And so kind of just, being able to understand, like, okay, I'm getting a little worked up, taking a step back from it, understanding, it's not the end of the world. It's a smoothie, it's a Sunday afternoon,
Right.
whatever, and things like that. It's just, you can't put a price on it. It's like,
Yeah.
learning how to do that. And it also comes with practice, because like we had talked about, at first, I forget exactly the way I approached it. Remember, because you're the one that kind of told me to set back and look at it.
Yeah,
Remember?
to observe them, like, as they
Observe it,
pop
yeah.
up, you kind of separate yourself from the emotion. And Jeff and I do a hand motion where
Yeah.
you pop your fist up and then you separate your other hand from your fist, and you're observing the fist as the emotion. Yeah.
You're the one that told me that, because initially I was just like, observe, but being a visual person, I think a lot of us, are visual people now.
Yeah.
I mean, with Instagram and these social medias, and it's like, we're communicating over pictures.
Right.
So we're very visual learners. We're very visual, people this day and age. And I think you kind of, bringing that, aspect to it, as far as, actually taking a step back, seeing it, you're not actually seeing anything, but in your mind,
Yeah.
Gives you kind of a different, layer, a different dynamic to understanding, some of your emotions and thoughts and feelings and things like that. And, being able to, navigate through them,
Yeah,
and,
I think it's such a strong thing that you're saying, brother. And I'm really grateful you said that, because it is in those little moments that defines or makes or breaks days, weeks, months, years, right? I mean, if you think a lot about those moments, like interest on money, right? Like, that stuff can compound very positively or very negatively.
Mhm.
The fact that you're in it now through these skills that you've learned and going through that very, very normal everyday thing to keep yourself present, right? You're staying present in that moment, and
Mhm.
having a relationship, right? I mean, that's the thing that I've pulled from all this work over the years, is that you're redefining a relationship with yourself, with your emotions, with your experience inside and then out. And so that relationship is really happening like all the time, but before you're not there for it. You're not there for that relationship. You're just being drug around by the emotion. But
Mhm.
now that there's this like uber presence that's been introduced, and this framework of ways to think, which is one of the things that I think you pulled a lot of value from, was like the ways in which to make decisions and to have a relationship with your emotions. Like, that changes everything, right?
Mhm.
Because then it's like your blast from your smoothie is not going to affect your night with your wife or your next day with your kids.
Next to the, because
Right.
that irritation there is going to lead to something else, which is going to lead to a way bigger issue and a way
Right.
bigger problem. and you're just lying to yourself, you know what I'm saying, along the way, you know, saying that it's something else, you know, it's just, and you even hit on it, you know, it's like, there's like self-awareness, you know what I'm saying, understanding I mean, there's multiple different, you know, kind of spokes that you hit on going through the work. And it's, you know, it's not just on, you know, understanding your emotions. Maybe you might, you know, somebody might come into this and say, well, I already do that, you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, have you really sat there and gone through, you know what I'm saying, what you know, your life's like at, you know, 80 years old, on your deathbed, you know, you probably haven't gotten that deep into it, you know, and sat there and gone through that work, you know, and looking back at your life and, you know, wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that. And I even talked about it, you know, it's like little, you know, little things, but it's over the course of time, it'll, you know, make me a lot better person and a lot better father and husband. And that's what it's all about is, you know, kind of having that, you know, it's maybe pre-awareness, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so you're having,
which is something that you can appreciate of all people, being a professional athlete in your past life and still, you know, taking that into your lifestyle. It's like we had that conversation the one time about the response versus reaction, right? And it's, you know, if you're reacting, we talked about the firefighter. If a firefighter, first responder showed up to a burning house and there was no training and there was nothing, what would happen? It would be a shit show.
Terrible.
It'd be an absolute shit show. But if this person is trained and learned the skills and dug into the knowledge and understood the data from what's going to happen in those environments, like, you're going to be a lot more able to succeed in that environment and have an optimal outcome. This is no different.
Able to, you know, it's the same thing when you get hit with adversity in life, right? Like, okay, that fire is an adversity, right? And if you're not trained in a way to handle that, then, you know, eventually it's, you know, it's going to catch up to you. Maybe that's a small kitchen fire, you know what I'm saying? And you put that one out, you know, but in whatever type of adversity, maybe you hit small adversity in your life and you can get over that, you know, and you maybe get a little bit more, you get over that. But, you know, I think we all know over the course of life, you're going to hit some, you know, pretty big, you know, adversity and some challenges. And one of the cooler things too, that, you know, we kind of really hit on a lot was kind of putting it into, putting, you know, those decisions that need to be made, whether it's adversity, whether it's, you know, a good decision. Maybe I want to take this job or I want to take that job, you know what I'm saying? Or do I need to make this decision? Do I need to make this decision? Or do I need to make this decision? And it's like, you know, you put it in, you know, to your program and it kind of takes out all the guesswork. And if, you know, if it doesn't check, you know, this, and this, well, that's not the right decision. Well, you know, if this one checks this, and this, then, you know, it kind of takes the guesswork out of making some decisions, whether it be, you know, good, you know, the hard decisions, or, you know, it be decisions in the time of adversity.
I love that, man. Yeah. It's such an interesting thing to bring up too and talk about for a second, is the idea that like opportunity and also adversity are actually equally, they could be equally impacting, right? Like, cause if you went to an opportunity route, like down the road, there could be some byproducts that are not aligned with who you are, in the same way that that adversity comes into your life. You would take a job because, you know, it is the job. Like if there's too much opportunity, everything's an opportunity, right? Having that filter to say like, this is the thing that actually matters to me now, from what I know about my data and who I am as a person, like that's going to give you such clarity and vision in your life. And I think that's such a profound thing to say. And
I take that weight off the clarity is just basically just weight off of your shoulders of, am I making the right decision or am I making the wrong decision?
There it is.
Right. I mean,
yeah, there it is. The right and wrong. Like we're all kind of like hovering around, like, am I doing this right? You know, there's no guidebook for how to be an adult or how to have a successful life. The only thing that really
exactly.
The only thing that really governs that is how you feel about your life in any moment, especially when you're alone, right? How you feel about yourself when you're in a room by yourself. Like, is that okay with you? Right. And so that governance of like knowing what happens from your values and your life intentions and all these things that you had the chance to go through, like, man, what clarity you get from that. I want to ask you a question too, because you said something a second ago that I think is something I've never asked you before, but I'm interested in hearing. So your lifestyle before was much different than most. Jeff was a professional football player, played in the NFL, Denver Broncos, had an awesome career. But you also had access to like amazing trainers, amazing facilities, people that are specialized in.
Keep hyping up my athletic career a little. My wife.
Yeah, man, I'll keep going. Won a national championship at Ohio State. Like, did
Didn't hear that? Yeah. Okay.
Did all these things that were amazing on the football field and off the football field. Philanthropist in your own right. You have a lot of cool stuff under your belt, brother. But when I think about this work, I'm interested in this question for you. It's because you had access to some of these things that some people might be like, wow, like these professional athletes have access to sports psych and all these different like mental and psychological outlets. But you said you've got something completely different from this that you never got in that arena. Could you shed some light on like some of the differences there from, like what was that experience like there versus what you got here? And maybe it was like different points in life, but like the training that you had with the mind and the sports psych and stuff versus what you had here, like what was the differences?
It's well, it's on to the next play, right? Like you never want the last play to affect the next play, and things like that. So if you had a bad play, you just buried it, and kind of and went on to the next play. You don't think about that because if you think about that, then it's going to affect your next play and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're just burying it down there, and eventually it's going to stack up, and and I think with in life, it's just kind of the same thing. The difference is they're not football plays, or they're real problems, they're real issues, they're real things, real emotions that kind of need to be addressed, and you need to be aware of. And I think going through this process it's different because you don't let what happened affect you, negatively, but you want to pay attention to it. You want to understand, understand what happened, why did it happen, or what am I feeling from it, or or like you said, adversity is opportunity. So if you're creating an opportunity out of adversity and things like that is a little bit different than kind of the mentality of sports where you can't sit there and kind of in the middle of a game go through and be all down about this. And it's the same thing in life. It's like if something happens and you look at adversity as adversity and it sucks and you're going to let that affect kind of going forward. So there's some correlation, but there's some differences where there's it's back to the brain wiring, bro.
Yeah.
How much do we talk about that? Like my brain's doing it right now. You start going through and some of the connections, and I use the washed up athlete terminology on this.
Sure.
You and Krista have the all the scientific stuff and why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking, or what your brain's actually doing. But I think that's kind of the difference, and some of the similarities as far as whether it's sports, you're going to hit adversity and things. And but yeah, I mean, we like this is how all our conversations.
I know.
This is why they went for so long.
What you said about the brain wiring too, brother, because I think sports, specifically for people that take sports farther in their careers, right? If they're going into collegiate, high levels, mid levels, or even professional, as you had the chance to play. You're running plays and tracks in your mind that are like very, very similar every time, whether it's like how you do something to achieve or the reinforcement you get from the outside in order to, get more playing time, whatever it might be. There are these things that you're doing that are reinforcing. And I think sport is such a great trainer in life. You learn a lot from that too, but it also is something that like gives you those deep tracks that you have to begin to unwind from. Right. And I myself had to do that, right? I got so much benefits from being a baseball player, like making quick, decisive decisions, like hitting a ball like that, you coming in at 90 plus miles an hour, like all those things like trained you. And then you have to kind of like unwind from some of the chemistry that sport provides, right? Like it provides a lot of good, but it also provides something that's like, these are deep tracks that I can start to like make new grooves from. And so I think it's cool that like you bring that brain wiring to the surface, because I think all of us, regardless if you played sports or you're an athlete or whatever, if you worked a job for 20 years, 15 years, like there are tracks there that you're doing over and over and over again that are just getting deeper because you're not taking the chance to like investigate other ways or different ways to think.
There's no control panel for your brain. So it's like, I'd spoken to a transitional psychologist briefly about this. We kind of ran into each other, and one of the things he said that stood out to me was, you've been playing football, you know what I'm saying, for 17 years, and your brain is wired a certain way where it's like you're done with football. You don't just go over the control panel, like, all right, flip, we're going to flip that off, we're going to flip this on, and we're going to wire it this way, that way. It's like, it doesn't happen like that. And I think that's where you see a lot of guys that, get caught up. They get in bad places. The transition from, athletics to, real life is harder on others, or on some.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not easy, and if you don't have the self-awareness around that, and it kind of, goes back to self-awareness, which is one of the, huge pillars of this, entire program, is having that self-awareness. If you don't have the self-awareness around that, it's going to be tough, because the way he put it too, the transitional psychologist, was, the wiring, and what's happening in your brain when you're out on the football field, whether it's a game, whether it's practice, whatever it is, like, to replicate that in real life is impossible. It's impossible to take that and golf, right? You're not even close. Running on a treadmill, where you just can't, you can't simulate what's actually happening. When you've done it for 17 years, it's there, and the guys that don't have that self-awareness around that and don't understand, then that's when they start to go down these paths, looking to, to try to recreate that in other ways. And, it's, first of all, you can't do it. And then the way, guys do try to, recreate that is a lot of times, not healthy, or not, the right way, or, not making, great decisions about it. So
I love this topic too, because I think what you're touching on is something that's very, very powerful, and also very resonant with me, because it's kind of my fire behind this in a lot of ways. When, Chris and I did this in our own points of transition, when we were leaving an established career and having our child and building a business for the first time together, like all these big points of transition kind of cultivate this need to learn how to swim if you've burned your own boat, in a sense. Right. So, but I think what you're touching on is like this idea of identity, right? This idea that, you've done something for so long, whether it's football, like you did for 17 plus years, or, I played baseball for 20 and then did a career for 12, right? It's like, these things become such a core part of your identity, and they've shaped you. And what I think is amazing about your story, and many others who've had a chance to do this, is that you have the awareness enough to realize that, like, change is possible, right? Like, it's not too late to switch to flip, essentially, to go to that panel and do it. It's not as easy as going to flipping the switch, like you said, but with work and with guidance and things like that, you can certainly change your outcomes and change. I'll boldly say, like, who you are, at least in the form, or at least who you thought you were, right? And so, like, being able to, like, rewire that programming and get out of your own way and see yourself in a new light, it's such a powerful thing.
Seeing yourself in a new light is self-awareness,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it has to. And I always tell this to people too. It's like, what I've learned for myself too is, even, 5 years ago, I was still far from comfortable with me. And, it's just been recently, within the last 5 years, that I've really, really dug into myself through this deep work in this program, and then outside with other third parties, where I'm finally comfortable in my own skin. And that's like you said earlier, it's priceless to be, like, in your own skin and in your own self, and be okay with, like, who you are, just in your steps every day.
Knowing, the decisions you're making on a daily basis are the right decisions, because you've put in the foundation, you have the programming, you have the algorithm, everything's working and everything's clicking on all cylinders, for your life.
Yeah.
And it takes all that, guessing and anxiety and things away from you, where you're not constantly second guessing yourself, or you're not, you don't have that weight on your shoulders as far as, is this the right way? Am I doing this right? Blah, 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 blah. It's just having the self-awareness around it, and just knowing and being comfortable with who you are. It's like when you go from, one of the things, back to the, something that I, kind of stuck with me was when when you're done playing football, like one of the first things that you got to do is, you can't tell yourself I'm a football player still, because you're not, and like, hopefully you haven't told yourself you're a football player your entire life. Like, I'm just a football player. I'm just a football player. Like, hopefully you haven't had that mindset.
Right.
But if you have, or if you haven't, like, I never had the mindset of I'm a football player. I'm, Jeff Heuerman, professional football player. Like, I try to, pride myself on being more than just a football player. My entire career, my dad always told me, like, you don't want to just be a football player. Playing football is something you do. It's not who you are.
Ooh, love that.
And, so but when you play in the NFL, and that's all everybody sees you as,
right.
So it's very easy to adopt the mentality of I'm Jeff, the NFL player, because that's what everybody else.
It's what you're rewarded for too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and so just having, back to the having self-awareness around that when you go through that transition from, being done playing, to, just transitioning into, the rest of your life. And if football was, this much of your life, like, the rest of your life is this. It's just a small piece, and you can't, go the rest of your life here, and saying, I'm a football player. It doesn't drag out, unless you're I don't know if you want to go be a coach, I guess, people, look at you as the football coach that,
right.
Former player or something, but just having the self-awareness through the transition of, one profession to another profession, or one kid to another kid,
right.
whatever it is in life. It doesn't, I don't want to just talk about the NFL and go into normal life, because it translates into
everything,
like everything you do.
Yeah.
And if you lack the self-awareness, you'll get, you get lost in the sauce. I mean,
I agree,
that's something
man.
that I talk about a lot.
You're bringing up another topic, man. You're just bringing them out of me right now with these questions. Is that the idea of the redefinition of success is a big one. Like what you said about the NFL, and if you've told yourself you're going to be this, an NFL athlete, or this, an accountant, or this, a designer, or this, construction worker, whatever it might be, and that's what you do, and you haven't yet defined that, like that success criteria is being assumed for you, right? Like that is all being assumed for you. There's nothing that you're doing for yourself yet to really understand like what success means for you. And I think that that's such a interesting topic to talk about for a few minutes, is like, man, the redefinition of success, when you've dug into yourself with some awareness, you're understanding who you are and your identity, at least at this point in your life, because we're all changing all the time. And then you're pulling the levers to actually say, this is what success means to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what it means to me now in this point of transition, in this new phase of my life as the book turns. I'm sure you had some of that going through this process, where redefinition of success was something that stood out for you. Was there anything like that?
Well, how about you go through, I forget which what we call modules.
Modules, yeah.
I forget which module it was, but go through module, I don't know, 5, whatever it was, when you go through and look at your life, when you're 85 years old, and tell, does your definition of success now align with what your definition of success is when you're 85 years old on your deathbed, looking back, right? I mean, do you want to be, the CFO that, cranked it out on for 8 years, 10 years, and made a big pile of money and didn't know your kids or your wife for that time period?
Right.
I mean, is that, when you're 80 looking back, are you going to say, that was worth it? Or are you going to say, I'd probably give up, half that to have half of my life and be able to spend it with my, my kids and family.
Yeah.
And so I think it's yeah. And we talk about a lot, defining success, and that's one of the things going through, the work is, what is success, and what do you want, your success to ultimately be? And it's just, it's something that you can't, and then that's kind of the part of this where you're not going to get on Google and find that, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to, follow the Instagram quote page, and, that won't create that, that brain wiring up there. It just won't. And but going through it with you and Krista and things like that, I mean, there were things that, talking to Krista about that, I mean, geez, I didn't think I'd ever tell anybody, outside my wife, and now it's, Krista, and it's, our second or third time meeting, and I'm like, here, take it all here. I'm spilling it all. See, Krista, just kind of really, opening up and not being afraid of admitting, how do I say this? Not being afraid to admit, what your definition of success is, because this day and age, it's like, if you're not, on Instagram showing your Lamborghini, and then, on a yacht, down in Miami, you're not successful. And it's like so many people chase that and
false profits. Yeah.
And, we see it, we talk about it, and, just the mental health around a lot of the younger generation, my generation, millennials and Gen Zs, and like what they're seeing as success is not necessarily success. And just going through this and being able to have self-awareness around that. And, what I'm saying, taking a step back and understanding that, success is not what you see online, or it's not what you see somebody else doing. That's not success. Success is defined by you, and it's different for everybody. So
that's profound, brother.
And I didn't, and it's, I like to say remember I used to say like, oh gosh, I had a lot of self-awareness, things like that, and like, I had that much, going into that, and then coming out, I have about that much, and you're a lot more comfortable, like you said, being comfortable with your definition of success. I think is huge, but you got to get there. You got to really put the work in to figure out exactly what that is. It's not just pull something out of thin air and say, yeah, this is my definition of success. I mean, creating those mission statements with, yourself, your wife, for your family, and just going through the work is just, it's something that, it's just, you can't recreate it, I don't think, anywhere else, outside of kind of going through the work that, you guys have perfected, and, the foundation you guys have kind of, laid there for, everybody else to kind of grow on top of and take with them.
Thanks, man. Well, it's awesome to hear. I mean, that's, the impact is what we measure.
If you enter, Jeff Heuerman, or JH82, you get 10% off.
We'll have a special promo code for those listening.
Yeah.
No, dude, I want to call out and thank you for that too, because the impact is what Chris and I measure, and what we measure at Allen Key, right? It's I used to design big applications for huge brands and do these things all over the country, and it was always fun to be done with a project, but it was never rewarding, right? And to like have somebody look somebody in the eye and say like, man, I'm doing things with my son, or I'm doing things with my wife, or I'm connecting with
you're a walking testament to what I just kind of explained, right? Like, for the people that don't know Phil, right? Phil's a big shot, big company. I'm gonna pump you up for a second, and just big company, it's doing really well. And, he was kind of there from, the jump. So making a lot of money, wasn't happy, and could you have continued doing what you were doing and looked happy on social media? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, and been miserable in real life.
Yeah.
But on social media, you looked like you had it all.
Yeah.
And that's where the disconnect happens with a lot of these, younger generations that, and I shouldn't only say younger generations. I mean,
anybody.
There's, some older people too that get lost in that sauce, and they could have seen you, and you could have, you could have rode that wave, right? And just, but deep down you were miserable, and it takes some real guts and toughness and kind of I mean, what you did is 90% of people don't do that. They continue down that path, and if they're seeing dollar signs, they think that that's gonna, you know what I'm saying, counteract the them being miserable,
the suffering,
the pain and suffering, right? And they can, they can fake the the happiness, this and that, but yeah, what you did, it just kind of speaks volume. And it's you have that perspective too, for whether you're working with athletes or you're working with executives and things like that, like you bring that perspective to the conversation and to the work, which is very, very rare, I mean, because it's rare for that to happen. It's even more rare for that to happen, and then for you to get into that and basically be coaching people, what I'm saying, through transitions and things, around what you guys do.
Thanks, man. Well, thank you. I mean, thanks for pumping me up. I feel pumped now after hearing that.
Yeah, you feel good. Yeah,
I feel good. Well, and actually, you gave me a compliment. I remember one call specifically where we had some time together. It was one of the best exchanges we had, I think, that day. And you had said something that was like, you were holding me to my values. You were like, I don't want you to miss Dad Day. And it was, I like got teary eyed. I was like, whoa, like I'm wearing myself on my shoulder, and this man that I'm developing a relationship with, like, is holding me accountable to like who I am now, but he sees me for who I am. Like he sees me for like being dad and being like a father, but it's also like entrepreneur and things. And it was like the best compliment you could have ever given me, just recognizing that I was like living my truth. Like I was living my truth. And that's what I was going to say about you too, is, you pouring it on the table with Krista to start and coming in full send, like that's a testament to like your want and your desire and your committedness to like experience that change in the transition. Right.
Let me touch on that. Like when you say pouring it on the table with Krista, like it's not like, oh, here's everything that's wrong with my life, you know what I'm saying? Or here's everything that's happened. This is why my life sucks. You know what I'm saying? Tell me I'm a good person. Tell me that everything's going to be okay. Right. Like it's not that at all. I don't want people to get like the impression that it's like some, therapy session. Lay on the couch and, you know what I'm saying? Smell the incense and, tell me about, everything that's wrong. It's going back, going back through your life up until that point and understanding, how certain situations and events, shaped you, for the good or for the bad, and just going back and having a different perspective and looking at them from a different point of view. And it's like, it's amazing because like you would think that something that happened, to me 15 years ago, right? Like, okay, that's 15 years ago, right? How am I going to grow from that now? How am I going to be better from that now? How am I going to have any more understanding of why I am the way I am now by looking at something that happened, 15 years ago? Like that would have, you're like, oh, but I would have never thought ever to do that. And, you would never think that you could go back through, life events and things like that and still learn and grow from them and understand yourself better 15 years later from something that happened back then.
Yeah. And I love that so much. I mean, Krista's going to love that too in a big way because, dude, like it's data, right? Like it is like our experiences, whether they're good or they're traumatic or whatever, like it's all data that shapes you. And so likely, because the statement that I always say to people now is, the day that you realize you're living a life you've assumed and not one you've created is the day that you should start looking at that data.
Yeah.
Right. As you should start to go back. Ooh. And what happens 15 years before that point, which you realized it is you buried it. You didn't even look at it, or you were too young to have the tools or mentality to actually dig into it.
Right.
Right. So
right. At 15 years old,
you're not ready.
No,
you're not ready.
You just sit there and,
you're not ready.
Dive deep into what just happened and really have, self-awareness of that. And, no way, you're 15, it happens and you just kind of, do the best you can at that age. but being able to go back 15 years later and still grow from that and learn from that is pretty cool.
Yeah. And realize what even's influencing you today from those experiences.
Yes.
You know,
that you have no idea, right? Like you start connecting dots. Here's a good way. You start connecting dots to, you know, your past and in your future that you're like, wait, what? Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. The brain wire. You're like, remember there was that one night, I told you guys, and I was telling Hannah too, we were having dinner. And, you know, we got in and I think I told you guys the next day or whatever, we had our call. I said, oh my God, just like, it's amazing going back, you know what I'm saying, and understanding things, you know, from a totally different perspective, and still being able to take the positives from it. Like adversity that happened back then is still an opportunity today for you to grow and better yourself and learn from and become a better person.
Man, you just summed that up so well, dude. I don't need to say anything else. That was beautiful, man. I think one of the things that, you know, I'd love to, as we're winding down our time here together, we could talk all day.
I'm just getting started.
I know, right? We're just ramping up.
45 minutes is all we got. I mean, that was like an intro going forward, you know?
As you think about this and your experience and all these things we've talked about, you know, there are other people out there that are, you know, at the beginning of their journey, that are just starting this idea of transition or change, or just realizing that there's something that needs to shift in their life. And maybe this program falls into their lap, maybe it doesn't, who knows, or they're going to go find something else. What would you tell someone who's considering a program like this or strategic planning for life in general, if they're on the edge of jumping in like you did?
Just jump, brother. Just jump. I mean, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's where growth happens, right? And that is not, you know, a quote by Jeff Heuerman. I've heard that before, you know. I didn't just make that up, but, you know, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if you're uncomfortable, because I was uncomfortable, you know, like I had never gone through anything like this. I'd never spoken to a therapist. I had never, you know, even if I was upset, you know, I was upset and I was like, you know, screw that, you know, I'm not going to be upset. See ya, you know, and just keep on moving on. Because it made me uncomfortable. You know, it made me uncomfortable to be upset. So I would like try not to let myself be upset. And that's one of the things we talked about too, is like letting emotions, you know, be there and you know, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be sad, you know, and don't be afraid of those, or don't, you know, shy away from those because they make you uncomfortable. Because, you know, when you're uncomfortable, that's when the, you know, growth happens. So that's what I would just say, you know, if you're uncomfortable or hesitant or nervous, like, you know, it's just, you know, it's one of those things that I mean, you're right. If you go through it and it sucks, call me. Right. You know, right. I mean, you know, we'll figure something out. I'll try to get you reimbursed, you know, I mean, like, that's kind of how much I believe in it. You know, it's, I'll put my, you know, my name on it, and, you know, my name on the line for, you know, the work you guys do, because it's, you know, it is life changing, and to really kind of put it any other way would, you know, just, you know, not be giving it, you know, really what it's worth, because it's life changing.
That's awesome, man. Again, humbled by you, grateful for you, the experience that we've gotten to share, and the relationship we're continuing to build as we go, my friend. You know, people that are listening, you know, maybe they don't know who you are, maybe they do, but where can people find you online? Where can people like get in touch with you on Instagram? Where are you hanging out these days online, if at all?
The golf course, you know, driving range, and I spent a little bit of time there. Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, you know, try to stay. That's, you know, how I choose to kind of operate, you know, like I won't be one of the first people in the metaverse, you know. I'm not going to say I'll never be in the metaverse, right? But right now I still try to live, you know, most of my time, you know, offline. But I got an Instagram, you know, I got a Twitter, you know, my wife, she's got my Instagram, you know, so if you got anything negative to say, gonna deal with her. Like there were a couple of times when I was playing and like, people say crazy stuff, right? Like I care less and doesn't not even the slightest, phasing of me. Like couldn't care. Her, if you didn't like something I said,
Hannah's sick on you. She's gonna get on your
back. If you didn't like something I said, it was probably better to tweet it at me, because she doesn't have my Twitter. Don't DM it to me.
Oh, that's great, man. But, dude, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for
where's Krista at? She's
with the kiddos right now. She's with the kiddos.
2 kids and building a house. I mean,
man.
Or something. I mean,
you know how our schedule works. We're bouncing around here. We
might have to do round 2 with Krista. Bring Krista on here.
Yeah, man. Well, we got to do round 2 in person. You guys are going to be one of the first guests of the new house. Bring the kiddo over.
Perfect.
Bo over. We're going to hang out, have some good food, break some bread together.
Bring over some, some permanent markers.
Yeah, right. On the white walls.
Paint, what else?
Listen, I'm already getting myself mentally primed for the handprints and the crayon and everything that's going to happen. Right.
It's chaos. Embrace the chaos.
Embrace it. Yeah. Embrace it. It's just a thing. It can change.
Embrace the chaos.
Just like we can. Brother, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon, my friend.
Thank you, brother.